Today, we look at CBS's brand new 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's get right into this. Ryan Wilson posted this, so I want to be able to talk about it. He is one of their lead analysts there. It's pretty much if Ryan Wilson or Mike Renner post something, we're going to review it. And, it's a nice little pause between our 2-round mock draft we dropped yesterday. Go check it out. It's the first one I've done this year where I said, screw it, everybody's coming out. And it's kind of fun. Not going to lie. It was actually really fun. And I actually got to do it in 50 minutes. That's just fucking nuts. You guys know me. I talk way too much. I try my best to keep it succinct, but we try to have fun. But let's get into this. Below my face is my board. These are the players I love in the order that I love them. There are some players due for reevaluation, but that's just because the one sitting at number 3 got his ass kicked this past week. Let's get into this, though. If you do want to support the Patreon, $5 a month, big board, evals, extended stock report, all that jazz. Let's get into this. Number 1, Arvell Reese. Edge rusher from Ohio State, because I think he'd definitely play edge for this team. And I'll just call this out right now. Some people got a little bit flustered who were Giants fans saying, why are you not taking Arvell Reese to us, and trying to put up all these reasons and then end up taking him with the next pick. I understand you just see the 2 picks and you're like, what the hell, bro? Like, you just told me why you shouldn't take him here because no linebacker in the top 10 in the past 5 years, and you take him to the next spot. But I urge you to listen, because there's a different role that he would play on the Saints, which is where I took him, and the Giants, which is where I said it's not logical for us to take him based off of what we've seen. The difference is, similar to the Titans and the Saints, both would use him as an edge rusher. Edge rusher goes in the top 3. It just does. And for good reason. Linebacker does not. And the Giants would not be using him as a linebacker. So he has lower value in that aspect. So I just want to emphasize that because there was some pushback recently. And, I do want to just at least get ahead of all the people who are kind of getting their feathers ruffled, so to speak. But Arvell Reese brings a crazy ceiling. Here's the issue. First off, you're hoping for a Jalen Walker-esque transition when I think Jalen Walker played a lot more edge reps than linebacker reps. I think he played games at edge. Arvell is still a hybrid linebacker. It is going to be very difficult to justify that over Ruben Bane, who provides a different skill set entirely, of course. It is really the vision that you're going for, and this is going to be a trade. I mean, Borgonzi loves his picks. It makes sense. But assuming that both are on the table, let's just assume this is, we're not even talking about the value of pick number 1 here. I just think that you need to get stability. That's my mindset. You need to build a foundation before you just try to go swinging for the fences. And if you have 2 similarly gifted players for different reasons, I would prefer to go after one that would build the foundation. That's my preference. I think that's what an NFL team would probably prefer as well, especially when, right now, if you miss on Arvell Reese or he has some time where he needs to adjust, you guys are still in a need for that position versus Ruben Bane's going to be one of those guys who provides a high floor with still a really noticeably high ceiling. And I think it just solves the problem better. And number 2, Caleb Downs, defensive back at Ohio State, goes to the New York Giants. It's someone who I have as high as, you see it. It's number 1 overall on my board. However, it's just the Giants could really use a weapon. Malik Neighbors coming off that ACL tear. Cam Scatabo, obviously his ankle. There's just so much firepower that is coming back from injury. And the worst thing you could do is force them to come back and overload themselves. You need to at least have some of the need at their position distributed elsewhere. Now, Tyrone Tracy for running back will be a good option there, right? But the wide receiver spot, we're not really seeing somebody. Wan'Dale's randomly popped off, but we're not seeing someone who's a true wide receiver 2 who should be the equivalent of a wide receiver 1. So that's why I end up trying to push really hard for wide receiver. Caleb Downs is a phenomenal player. If you do end up going this route, I will say, for the love of God, trade back. But at least you're getting a damn good player. So Caleb Downs, the selection there. It would not be my choice, but it is still, you're not going to be missing on getting the best talent in the class. And that's just what it comes down to. Number 3, we have the Saints going Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. I don't think they're going to be going QB. I have seen enough flashes out of Shuck for me to say, we're good, bro. Think about that. I'm trying to remember who did that. The one where it's we're good, bro. Damn. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. But regardless, Actually, I saw one of his shows live too. This pisses me the fuck off. But regardless, you can end up waiting because 2027 class is going to be very, very good. Because there's going to be guys returning from this class who get better. Maybe they get worse, but you can't operate solely out of optimism for the future. And at the same time, you can't act solely out of pessimism either. There's going to be guys who get better, and there are going to be guys who don't. That's just the truth of the situation. Normally, with experience, you get better, but some guys, like we've seen this year, don't. And you know what? That's a damn good thing. It's good for us to see that those players don't do well. We're always like, oh man, Drew Aller should have come out last year. Garrett Nussmeier should have come out last year. Thank fuck they didn't. I mean, think about this. Do you want that talent level being starting for your team right now? We don't want them starting for the team next year. So think about it through that lens as well. Even though maybe you don't find the same solution, it could end up being still, there's a path to success that's not linear. And it's not the exact same, which is why we can have fun talking about mock drafts. That being said, if they do go Fernando Mendoza, I don't think the world's over. I just think Tyler Shuck has had enough positive impact to be able to at least look at other options. Number 4, we have the Raiders going Peter Woods, defensive lineman out of Clemson. I'd prefer personally to go after Ruben Bane at this point, but Peter Woods is a stud. I mean, I have him as a top 2 player in the class. I mean, he's a damn good player, and this team needs defensive interior pressure. It is surprisingly much harder to deal with interior pressure than it is for edge pressure. You can't roll out I guess you can roll out, but that's going to be like feasting for your edge rushers. It's going to be a little bit easier to evade one side of the line of scrimmage or shift your line versus if someone's absolutely destroying the middle of your pocket, you have to bail out of said pocket, which is why Aaron Donald was just such a massive impact for the Rams. But I'm not saying that's what Peter Woods is. I'm just saying there might be a reason to say we want to go defensive interior over an edge rusher. And there you go, playing devil's advocate. Number 5, Dante Moore returns to Cleveland. He was born in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. For a while, he was raised in East Cleveland. And now he gets to go back. I don't know if Shadur is going to be ousted. We'll see. He's played the Stefanski system, well enough. The problem is the NFL doesn't like quarterbacks that are well enough. They like quarterbacks that are damn good. And if you're in a position to draft one that's damn good, like Dante Moore, there's a strong chance you can end up doing that and just trying to trade away they play well enough type of guy. Number 6, Keldric Faulk, edge rush out of Auburn, goes to the Washington Commanders. I don't think Keldric Faulk is shown enough to be worth number 6. I just don't. But if you do have again, we have to see this through the lens of how the mock drafter is doing it. If his board says Keldric Faulk is number 11, and this is a team that definitely could go after an edge rusher, right? And it's pretty damn close to 11. So it is understandable. I personally don't rank him in that same way, but it is a little bit closer to how I view Ruben Bane, right? Keldric Faulk's going to have better measurables, but he also is somebody who's a weird tweener at 285. He's been between 288, 270, and it is going to be interesting to see if he comes out, but we'll see. He's young. He's talented. Give Dan Quinn a young, talented player. It's going to be kind of hard for him to fail. At number 7, we have the Jets going Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama. I love Ty Simpson. I think that people are really getting him wrong. Todd McShay is a huge, huge Ty Simpson guy, probably even more than me. But, Ty definitely is somebody that he cooled off a little bit. Some people were saying it's by far the quarterback one, and then, his conversations died off. He's had some struggles here and there. But overall, I think he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, he is super young into his career. He's showing some progressive traits that you don't see from players this early. And it's a player that you want to have on your roster because you see him. He's a ball of energy. You could tell he's a good locker room presence as well. Some guys come with some baggage. This guy looks like he actually takes baggage off of other players just by how energetic he is. And it just looks like guys love him. And that's really important. I mean, he is a leader on the field as well as off the field. And he's playing damn good on the field. And if he can continue that off the field, could end up being something that really does matter more than maybe we're giving it credit for. At number 8, we have the Cardinals going Spencer Fano, right tackle out of Utah. It says interior offensive lineman here. Let's end up taking a quick peek at this. Fano excels in wide zone schemes, mobility second level. Okay. Technically sound right tackle. So I guess this is just what they end up having him listed as. I don't get that. I do think Spencer Fano has an aspect of him that could be needing to be put into guard, but I'm just going to be honestly quite surprised. I think this is maybe just a typo. At number 9, we have the Rams going Cisse Mauigoa, tackle out of Miami. Honestly, it makes a lot more sense to flip the two. If I'm going to be real, McClendon's been doing a good job at right tackle. I think this is the opportunity to go after Mansour Delane and end up locking down that corner 1 position for the long haul. Personally, that would just be where I go. But Cisse ended up looking really good in person. Not many guys did that day from Miami, but Mauigoa did. So I do have some faith in him based on him passing the eye test. Number 10, we have the Bengals going Ruben Bane Jr., edge rusher out of Miami. This is kind of just a best player available approach, but it is very funnily enough, almost the opposite of what this organization looks for, because he's not the most athletic guy in the world. He's not a bad athlete, but we're not talking about a plus athlete here because they believe in RAS, measurables, and size. He has the size, but he doesn't have the measurables. His arm length is going to be probably around 32, maybe 33, but I think it's closer to 32. It looked short in person too. And then he's not the most explosive athlete in the world. I think Akeem Mesidor is a better athlete than Ruben Bane. He's strong as hell, though. That's the one part of athleticism I'm not mentioning. That's incredible for Ruben Bane. But I do think the Bengals need to look at edge rusher as well. If he's there, I think this is one of those guys who can end up bucking the system and end up changing what the tendencies normally are just because the value is too good. Number 11, we have the Vikings going Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. I mean, you need to get an infusion of juice into that running back room. You do. You need to help out your quarterback situation as much as possible. Some people are theorizing about alternative quarterbacks. Kyler Murray on the market, technically. I don't really think that's a very smart move. Just going to be honest, with the price tag and everything, I don't know if that's going to be bright to do something like that. At the same time, you're not going to draft a quarterback here, right? Quarterback 4 in this class is just not there. So I'd definitely worry about that. Jeremiah Love can bring some stability, some instant impact. And, he's always been an incredible athlete. And then you add in that he's 215. It's really special. He could be a really special back. At number 12, we have Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the Miami Dolphins. This is a team that continues to thrive through the air. This is a player who can end up attacking every level of the field and is extremely reliable with over 85% contested catch percentage on the year to this day. That's not really seen by anybody, and it's not like Carnell's getting one contested catch every other week. This guy is getting fed the ball. He's doing a great job. So I do think this is a very reasonable pick. At number 13, the Chiefs go Brandon Cisse, cornerback out of South Carolina. Now, I really like Cisse. I have him as a top 10 player in the class, even after he got torn to Swiss cheese versus Texas A&M. I will say this, though. I think Jermod McCoy's a far closer player skill set wise to what the Chiefs look for on the boundary. It reminds me of Kamal Hayden, who they ended up bringing in a couple of years ago, but also on top of that, Noel Williams. They have a particular type. Listen, I got a type. You got a type. Are we going to act like these professionals don't have types? I mean, let's just be real here. And I'm just going to be real. I don't think Brandon Cisse is their type. I think maybe if you're including Jermod McCoy, he's a little bit more up their alley. And I think there's definitely some conversation to be had about Kenyon Sadiq here. I think there's some conversation to be had about maybe looking at some more offensive line talent, maybe another edge rusher. I mean, there's some good ones that are available still. So, I mean, TJ Parker is the one who I'm thinking of, but we'll see. I just don't really think Cisse, as much as I love the value, fits Kansas City. Caden Proctor, offensive lineman of Alabama, goes at number 14 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do think we need to look at interior offensive line with an upside at tackle. I just don't trust with how we've developed offensive line talent for Caden Proctor to be that guy. I hate to bring that up, but it just does kind of feel that way. Like, Caden's a player who needs to be in a system with a coaching staff that has a proven track record that is up to date, whether it be Philadelphia, San Francisco. Well, San Francisco, it's more so the mentorship of Trent Williams. I just think there is going to be definitely going to be that aspect to his success or failure. And then you could also talk about, certain systems like Houston, it's almost, he's like, you can't be that bad to fail. So there's certainly some systems that he works well, and I'd just be a little bit worried about the Steelers. At number 15, we have the Panthers going Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. Just literally swap the two. Put Cisse here and put Jermod McCoy at the Chiefs spot, and I'm rooting for both. Jermod McCoy honestly doesn't necessarily feel like much of a difference from Cisse. And, I don't know. I like boundary corner for the Panthers, to be fair. So I'm not going to like rip on it too much. I think it's a good move. It's just I prefer Cisse here, Jermon McCoy with the Chiefs. 16, we have the Cowboys going Quincy Rhodes Jr., edge rusher out of Arkansas. He fits their standard size profile, especially because they're trying to replace Marshawn Nealon's vacancy. On top of that, I mean, he's young, he's explosive, has the pass rushing capabilities. So big fan of the idea of Quincy Rhodes at 16. I think it's a bit early. At number 17, we have Vega, guard out of Penn State, going to the Lions. I prefer to just be focusing on left tackle here. Caleb Lomu, that's going to be my guy because he might not have the best arm length, but Penei Sewell didn't either. And so I prefer to just try to, address that Taylor Decker vacancy rather than just getting another good guard. I know that's like super simplistic, but if I'm going to be honest, Vega brings the pass rush foundation and the anchor. That kind of was what Christian Mahogany brought out. And so I don't really understand if like who exactly the center is supposed to be in this situation, but I prefer to address tackle and then end up defaulting to guard later on or via failure of Lomu to be able to play at the left tackle spot. I know it kind of sounds crazy to say that, but I also have Lomu higher than Vega. At number 18, we have the Houston Texans going Emmanuel Pregnon, guard out of Oregon. I love Pregnon. He is sitting there in the top 15 for me, and he's a left guard. You need that position. He's a damn good player. Don't overthink it. Just fill it. Number 19, pause. We have the Baltimore Ravens going Amari Washington, defensive interior out of Oregon. Really high ceiling. My problem with the Ravens is that very similar to what I was talking about with the Titans, but on a different level. We need to see a foundation built. There's a lot more instability with the Ravens than what we kind of think. And it's really scary because, well, it's great for me as a Steelers fan. I'll just put that in there. But for the Ravens and like the NFL in general, we've gotten so comfortable with the Ravens having a kick-ass defense. I mean, for the past 20 plus years. It's not that anymore. And when you start taking swings on inconsistent but extremely high ceiling players, maybe you hit home runs, but at the same time, you can whiff too. And Eric DeCosta is known for going best player available. Amari Washington's not the best player available here. I think it'd be a lot more in their interest to go after a player that brings a floor at this point. If you're going to want to go defensive interior, don't go Amari Washington, go Caden McDonald. He's young. He provides a much higher run defense floor, and he's a lot more consistent. Not trying to trash Amari Washington here. What I'm saying is that Amari's going to be expected to do a lot more early than maybe what he should in the situation where he'd have the most success. And our goal here is put players in the spot where they need to go to where they can succeed. That's the goal, right? I mean, we shouldn't just try to say, oh, this player's a lot of cool talent. Let's just, send them to this team because, they need it. Like it's not that simple. It really isn't. I can guarantee you, this is why teams employ a lot of people in their scouting departments. It's because it's not just as simple as saying, oh, that's a good player. We have that need. Put him in there. It's like, you got to look at the vision, right? The impact, what you need now, what you're looking for, the development track, etc. And I just don't really think that's the right spot for Amari Washington. At pick 20, we have CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia, going to the Buccaneers. I like CJ Allen. I don't think of him as a first-round quality player. I think he's a little bit more nuanced. I think he's gotten better in the coverage realm, but still a little bit one-dimensional in the aspect of being more of a thumper back. But, I like Todd Bowles of linebackers. I would just try to wait for this in round 2. At number 21, we haven't seen wide receivers go off the board pretty much except for Carnell Tate. And Jordan Tyson slips at 21. Medical red flags would have to be going off the charts for this to happen. But the Bills, and just enjoy this episode. You know what I mean? Like, you get Jordan Tyson here. Whatever other wide receiver was available, I think you'd be perfectly happy. The only wide receiver that is like late first that I'd be a little bit concerned with is Casey Concepcion. And I really like Casey. I think he's a damn good wide receiver. But like, there's some drop issues there. The utilization of someone who's in that like 190 and below range in Buffalo could be something where you're like, So, I mean, Jordan Tyson, the talent's through the roof. Mekhi Lemon, the talent's through the roof. Chris Bell, amazing build for a wide receiver 1. Denzel Boston, similarly. So it's like, we're talking about that group of 5 in the first round. And, I'm nitpicking by saying, KC would be the spot where I would be like, do I do it here? Number 22, we have the Eagles going TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. I just doubt that they end up letting Jalen Phillips walk. If they do, this is an amazing move. If they don't, I think they end up bringing Jalen Phillips back. They end up, developing Jalen Hunt and the rest of the crew as they get healthy again. And they end up addressing boundary corner here. I'd go after Avion Terrell, and that's, where I'd probably forget about it, or Colton Hood. Either way, I'd be happy. Speaking of Casey Concepcion, he goes at number 23 to the Jets. And I think KC is a little too close to Garrett Wilson in skill set. I would prefer to go after someone who's going to be a bit more of a possession style receiver there with, you could say Chris Bell, but I'd go after Denzel Boston here. Number 24, speak of the man, speak of the devil. Denzel Boston goes to the San Francisco 49ers, wide receiver out of Washington. They do need to have some stability in the receiving core as well, which is crazy given the amount of money and picks the Niners have put into their wide receiver core. Granted, CMC has been sucking the life force out of these dudes. So maybe it is time. But it is kind of crazy to see that a team that has invested so much still needs to invest in said position. At number 25, we got the Chargers going Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. I don't think this is a top tier position to go and try to target for the Chargers. I don't think that it's ever a bad idea to go after corner early. Corners fluctuate in terms of how they're performing all the time. I'm just going to be honest. You could see top tier corners have bad games. Like there are games where Patrick Surtain is not the best cornerback in the NFL, right? And to be fair, you can say that about every single position, but for corner especially where, it is very streaky, it's confidence based, having 3 starting quality boundary corners is not an Achilles heel at all. It's actually a really big plus because sometimes a matchup's just not good for your starter. And if it's not good for your backup either, you're just screwed. You have to devote safety help, or you just have to pray to God that they don't get targeted. So I'll just say this. The Chargers are not immune from cornerback upgrades at all. I think Avion would start, probably be their corner 1. But at the same time, maybe there are other positions. You talk about the interior of the offensive line with Caleb Lomu there, who can also be left tackle while Rashawn Slater gets healthy. I think that could end up being a little bit more impactful of a move. 26, we have Carter Smith, guard out of Indiana, going to the Cleveland Browns. He is a left tackle, but he's projected to go into guard. I like the idea, not at the end of the first. Let's end up going after Caleb Lomu here, who has that tackle implication, and then move him into guard if you need to. Carter Smith, again, has been doing a phenomenal job this year. He is not a first-round pick. Number 27, the Cowboys go Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. I love how the Cowboys handled this. Colton Hood's a really good value. I don't think corner is necessarily the biggest position to target, but with Colton Hood's increased zone IQ, it reminds me a little bit of Kalen Carson as well. And so it does fit the profile as well. So Colton Hood, a damn good selection there for the Cowboys. At 28, we have the Seahawks going Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. Julian Neal's a good player. He's a little bit on the older side. He's someone who's shown to have some issues in terms of having some pretty bad games, not really rebounding. For me, this is a second round quality corner. This is a mid-second corner you're taking at the end of the first, which is something that happens, but I don't think the value adds up here at all. So I'd prefer just to move out, and then, if you miss out on him, you miss out, rather than reaching and then, pretty much saying, well, we're going after a player who's just not necessarily worth it just because we won't get him at the next pick. That's usually how you get yourself behind. At 29, this is the second time I've seen this now, by the way. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, defensive back out of Toledo, goes to the Rams at 29. I think I already said that. But Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's been incredible. Ball skills through the roof. He just tracks everything. Call him, a magnet, for lack of a better term. I usually have better nicknames for these guys off the top of my head. But Emmanuel McNeil-Warren will be a top-tier safety option for the Rams. I don't know if they target him at the end of the first, but I do think he is a really solid player to be adding to the Rams. I just don't know about 29. At number 30, we have the Broncos going Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles is a fringe first-round linebacker, great athlete, tons to work with, needs to go to the right type of defensive coordinator, and Vance Joseph is exactly the guy who I would want for him, and especially with Luke Wattenberg signing his contract. Thank you guys again for always pointing that out. I'm a fan of 32. You're a fan of one team. It helps out so much. It really does. And obviously, taking time off to go spend time with family definitely ends up having some blind spots that you guys really do help me cover. At number 31, we have Caleb Lomu, tackle out of Utah, going to the Bears. We'll see what the long-term view is, but with us seeing that their left tackle spots being taken by Ozzy Trapilo at points, I doubt they're going to move on. I just don't see them giving up. right? There's not going to be enough games for them to really like get a good idea. But I would say if they end up making this move and somehow finding a way to move Trapilo, or they think Lomu can end up playing guard if as they continue testing Trapilo out, if there's a vision there, I'll support it. At 32, David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech, ends off this draft by going to the New England Patriots. There's some off-field stuff that's definitely a red flag for him. Again, do your own research. I have my own research out on X. You can feel free to look it up. I provide videos. I have nothing against David Bailey at all. In fact, I really liked him coming into the year, but after assaulting the camera guy and what he did versus NC State last year, to me, it's a red flag. And I usually give you one pass. It's been 2 times. I don't really know if Vrabel's going to love that. At the same time, friend of the show, Braden Swinson, did get drafted there, and people technically had some red flags on him in terms of character. So maybe it is something that works out, and it's BPA. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Showing love you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.